We'd like to show it to you today for the first time, and we call it the iPad.
So John, you were at the event today where Steve Jobs unveiled a new Apple computer called the iPad. How does this unveiling compare to previous launches?
This compares well. I think we as a collective media were far more spun up than Mr. Jobs. He sort of took what I thought of as a bit of a Zen stance. He was very understated on stage. I mean, lots of superlatives, but this compared well. But I don't think it was more striking the introduction of Next, for example, or the iPhone, for example, where he had thousands of people in the audience. He obviously, whether he set price expectations or whether we as the media did, he was below the price expectations. So he's got an entry model under $500, and I think that at that price, I think the telling point that he made was that there are 75 million iTouch and iPhone users out there, so there's this built-in market for this product, and I think that he'll sell a lot of them.
Do you think, I mean, you mentioned that the basic model, the price is $500, which sounds pretty reasonable to us, but for most people that is kind of expensive if you've already got a cell phone and a laptop. I mean, do you think that this will be a device that attracts, or that appeals to a lot of mainstream consumers, or will be more for the early adopters, kind of geekier set like you and me?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Will it get past the Apple fanboy audience? And God, clearly it's a great book reader. It's a great way to watch television. He says it's a great way to surf the web. Maybe it's a good way to do email. And at $500, that probably will get him enough lift to build a really good market. I mean, there were a couple of things that I noticed were missing that were really quite striking. There was no camera. There's no camera pointing at me, so there's no video iChat in the first version, which really was, I thought, a surprise. I thought that was an obvious application. And the keyboard, you saw Steve make a typo, you saw somebody else make a typo. Obviously, it's not the same as having a regular keyboard. And they have this kind of kludgy stand, which they said would let you type. And that's a tremendous concession from Steve Jobs' point of view, to have that kind of kludgy stand that you're supposed to take to type on.
It's hard to imagine, though. I mean, analysts have been talking about all these applications from, construction workers using the iPad as a keyboard or a clipboard, or students using it as a teaching tool, or teachers. It seems hard to imagine it being replacing just a regular keyboard that you're using every day. I mean, that seems like
it doesn't.
That might be challenging.
It doesn't, but the question is good enough until people have it for a month or two, they won't know. But for those kinds of, the other thing is that voice is coming along very quickly. If you've played with Drag and Dictate or some of the other applications on the iPhone, I already routinely use them to enter text for emails, and they work quite well. And so if that's the direction things go in, maybe it will matter even less.
What do you think about the iPad as a Kindle killer? How worried should Amazon be?
I think they should be very worried. I mean, Jeff Bezos wasn't on stage. Martin Niesenholtz of the New York Times was on stage. I think that sort of says it all, is that, I think it depends on the business relationships and pricing. It's interesting that Jobs called out a special store. He set up a new book reading store, as opposed to just putting books in the iPhone, which means he's made it a priority. I actually had an opportunity to talk to Bezos about this a couple of days ago, and I think that, the Kindle reader will be on the iPhone. And so I imagine you'll be able to read your Kindle books. And Bezos may just see it as an opportunity. And then, of course, there are all the other competitors to Apple. Microsoft will certainly have a product. There'll be many of these tablet devices out there, and that's all plenty of opportunity for Jeff Bezos.
Are there any big takeaway themes we should think about?
Yeah, I mean, I was reflecting on sort of what Steve Jobs does well, and everybody knows he's a great marketer, but the thing I'd give him a lot of credit for is sort of listening to the technology better than anybody. And if he does get this right, it will be because he understood the convergence of these different technologies well, and knew the right time to introduce this device. And my guess is he picked the right time.
And what this device does is extraordinary. You can browse the web with it. It is the best browsing experience you've ever had.